Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here, and today we are going over a pretty good deal that is available to you guys as part of the U.S. Independence Day event that's currently live in the Armory right now. So we're going to go over the event, look at what you can get in it, talk about whether or not it's worth it, which you can get a premium ship out of this event at a pretty nice discount. So we're going to talk about all that and more in today's video. So if you wouldn't mind going down below and clicking that like and subscribe button, helps out so much so on the YouTube side of things. Plus I cover good deals and news about the game all the time here on the channel, and if you like that, please make sure to subscribe to the channel for more. And while you're down there, why not leave a comment as well? Helps out on the YouTube side of things. But now that that's out of the way, let's go ahead and take a look at this event. So again, if you head on over to the Armory, you'll notice the U.S. Independence Day event has gone live, and you, once again, are earning, you'll never believe this, a new temporary resource called Independence Tokens. Why they didn't call these things Freedom Tokens or Freedom Units, that would have been a nice laugh, but Independence Tokens, right? So how do you get these Independence Tokens? Well, as always with these tokens, there's a way to get a certain amount of these guys for free, and of course you can just outright buy them in the event for doubloons. But you can get enough to get the premium ship that they are selling as part of this event, the Florida, for a hefty discount for free. So you can earn these Independence tokens in a series of combat missions that will be taking place over the next 2 weeks. And between the two combat mission chains, you can earn up to 400 tokens, 200 per week, 200 for this week, 200 for next week. That gives you 400 tokens. And then you can buy another 200 tokens for 32,000 coal. So that gives you 600 tokens, which is just enough to get you through the sequential bundle for this event. Now, unlike previous events, the sequential bundle is actually quite short, which is kind of nice. So in the sequential bundle, you will get the Florida flag. You will get a set of the blue economic bonuses, 3 of them to be exact. So, the credits, ship XP, commander XP, and free XP blue economic bonuses. You get 3 of those each. You'll get the Statue of Liberty commander with 10 skill points, and she does have her own unique voiceover. And you will get the Gold Eagle perma camo for the Florida. And then finally, you will get the Florida at a 70% discount, which means the ship only costs 2,900 doubloons, which means you're paying about $10-ish for a tier 7 premium ship, which is a pretty nice discount. These ships right now, before of course 14.6 goes live, a tier 7 premium ship will run you about 30-ish US dollars, depending upon what ship it is that you wish to acquire. So pretty good deal there. Now, of course, you have to, make sure you're completing those combat missions over this week and next week, and you do have to cough up 32,000 coal to get the Florida for $10. But is the Florida worth it? Glad you asked. So, the Florida is an interesting tier 7 premium ship. The real design for the ship was one of the designs for the proposed North Carolina class. So this is what we could have gotten out of the North Carolina. North Carolina was actually designed to have 14-inch guns, but because of the way that the world was going at the time, they used an escalator clause to arm her with 16-inch guns. That was part of the various naval treaties at the time. So that's why we got the North Carolina with 16-inch guns. But this was one of the designs that was under consideration. So pretty cool that we get to have, this version of the North Carolina class in game. That is one of the things I do like about the paper ships when they do bring them out. It's like, hey, this is what this ship could have been, and almost was. So I think that's pretty cool. But anyway, so the Florida, she is armed with 12 14-inch guns, which is not overly large by tier 7 standards, but not overly small either. You got King George V armed with 14-inch guns as well. Although, if you look at other battleships at the tier, most of them have like 15-inch-ish guns. So, yeah, on the smaller side for tier 7. But you do get 12 of them, which is pretty good. Now, unfortunately, because you do have 12 guns at tier 7, you do also have a 32-second reload, and since this is a tier 7 ship, there's no way to reduce that reload. You can't take the module because you don't have that mod slot just yet, so you are stuck with a 32-second base reload, which isn't overly terrible, but it's also kind of, you notice it for sure, because yes, you get 12 guns, and when you do get to fire, that's a lot of shells going downrange out of a tier 7 battleship, and the accuracy isn't really that bad. The Florida has really, really good vertical dispersion, and the horizontal dispersion of the Florida is kind of convenient in most cases because it's conveniently the length of most tier 7 cruisers, I find. So in a lot of cases, if you can aim decently well, most of the shells will be impacting the broadside of whatever tier 7 cruiser or really any tier 7 ship that you come across. So that's pretty nice and leads to the Florida being a very excellent cruiser deleter. Keep in mind too, this is a tier 7 ship, so tier 7 cruisers are still made out of explodium in most cases. So when you find their broadside, you're launching 12 14-inch guns at these ships. Since they are 14-inch guns too, they don't really overpin cruisers as much, unless it's like a French cruiser for some reason, right? But so you'll be getting a lot of pins, a lot of citadels, from my experience, blasting cruisers with the Florida, and that's what she is very, very good at doing with those 14-inch guns. So she's great on the artillery part, in my opinion. Now, flip side of that is, of course, when you're dealing with other battleships, of course, your overmatch capability is pretty much non-existent in your matchmaking bracket, unless you get a pretty hard down tiering, when like it's you and a bunch of tier 5 ships maybe, but of course with tier 7 matchmaking that's probably not going to happen. So you will be spamming a lot of HE at higher tier battleships and such, because you can't really do much to them when they're angled. Obviously when they're broadside, please by all means load AP, hit their broadside. They won't like they won't like 12 14-inch AP shells going to their broadside. It may not eradicate them in one salvo, but it's going to hurt. But again, most players by this tier understand angling, so they will be angled in or out from you, but that's when you just load HG and you just burn them down, because you've got 12 shells, and with a pretty solid fire chance too, you won't really be having much trouble starting fires on those higher tier ships, which is kind of nice, because the way that the premium economy, that the economy works, is that when you do damage to a ship that's higher than you, you actually earn a bit more XP, which will in turn give you more XP at the end of the match and more credits as well. So it's not a terrible situation when you're a ship like the Florida that can burn down those higher tier ships relatively easily. So that's kind of nice there. So the guns are pretty good is what I'm saying. Now, the rest of the ship, the hull that those guns are attached to, well, it's not really fantastic. The armor is thin and overmatchable by a lot of ships that you're going to be coming across, especially again considering this is a tier 7 ship. So you have weak armor by tier 7 standards, and you're going to be constantly up tier to tier 8, and probably a bunch of tier 10 tier 9 games as well. So that does kind of suck, because tier 9 ships, battleships, they definitely have more than enough oomph to punch through your armor. So yeah, you're not going to have an overly fun time in those tier 9 games. So that is definitely a big downside of the Florida. Now, your concealment's pretty good. Look at this thing. This is a tier 7 battleship with, was it 12-1, 12-2 kilometer concealment with the commander skill. That's pretty good. That's really good, actually. So you can, leave situations that are not overly favorable to you. So that's nice. But then, of course, we got things like CVs, which you do have DFAA and fighter in 2 separate slots. So that's pretty cool. And, Wargaming says it has good AA. With the DFAA going, like tier 6 carriers probably won't want to be around you, and if you run across some tier 8 carriers and the player doesn't really have the best flak dodging ability, you will definitely murder their planes. But again, if you don't have baller AA, then you basically have no AA, right? So yeah, So the ship is a ship that you got a really nice set of main battery guns, in my opinion. The hull's not all that survivable, but with the range that you have, because you can take the American Artillery Plotting Room Mod 1 module, you have pretty nice range. The HE shells are pretty comfortable to sling at that range, so it's not the end of the world when you get up tier. You know, it's a tier 7 battleship that can still do something to higher tier ships, which not a lot of tier 7 battleships can say that, because of course battleships, most of the damage is coming from their AP shells, but with the Florida here you have the HE shells you can fall back on to do, you know, damage over time and consistent HE pin damage to higher tier battleships. So that's kind of nice, and the guns are really good for dealing with cruisers when they slip up and show you broadside, so that's also really nice. And considering that this is a ship that you can get in this deal for around $10 and it's normally a $39 premium, it's not that bad in my humble opinion. You really play it more like a heavy cruiser than a battleship. Imagine this as like a tier 7 Alaska, and you're doing pretty good, although it's less tanky than an Alaska. So what I'm saying is you play it like a large cruiser. You run around in the back, you spam HE at battleships and such, you load AP and broadside cruisers, and that's how you play the Florida. And it will do you well in those situations when it's not getting screwed over by matchmaking. But of course, it is a tier 7. All tier 7s get screwed over by matchmaking, so that's not like a uniquely Florida thing. So yeah, but again, considering you can get it for $10 right now, it's not a bad pickup, in my opinion. If you like, you know, those battleships that play like large cruisers rather than playing like battleships, right? You play it like a large cruiser or a battle cruiser, and it'll do you pretty well. So that's my 2 cents on the Florida, guys. Again, it's a ship that's only $40, so you can get for $10 on top of the blue economic bonuses, the Statue of Liberty Commander. It's a pretty nice deal, in my opinion. That being said, I wouldn't like rush out and get it right now. It's definitely not like, oh my god, the Florida's $10, right? It's not one of those ships, right? But if you've been looking at picking up the Florida, it's definitely a good place to pick up the Florida right now. Or if it sounds interesting, you know, the background footage looks interesting, although probably not, because I did wind up losing this match, but it's the only like solid game that matchmaking wanted to give me when I sat down to record this video, right? But yeah, if you do like these battleships that play like this, it's probably a good pickup for you. But anyway, guys, let me know what you guys think about the Florida in the comments down below. Hope you guys have a wonderful Saturday, wonderful rest of your weekend. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.